Hey guys, how you doing? It's Noir back with another video. In today's video, I'm talking about how to make Ableton more like an MPC. Obviously, I love chopping samples. It's a big part of my workflow. And I have a few techniques that I use in Ableton to chop samples better. And I think it'd be beneficial to make a video about it and tell you guys a bit of the process I use. So let's get to it. So we're here in Ableton right now. I've just made a beat all based around chopping samples and using the keyboard as a MIDI input. So I'll break down a bit what I've done here and show you guys the process. So the first thing you do when you bring in a sample, you need to make sure you right click and crop the audio. So I right click here, crop clip or clips. What that does is it makes it a unique piece of audio and Ableton saves it in its own file system. And so then what I do, I open up a new MIDI track and I like to use Serato sample. This is what Serato sample looks like. It's one of my favorite ways to sample on Ableton. It's got so much versatility, and I'll briefly discuss that in this video, but I might do a whole video about it. So then what I do is I come up to this little button, turn that on. That turns your keyboard into a MIDI keyboard. I think the shortcut for that is M. And then you come down here and tick this red recording arm. That allows your MIDI input to affect the track. And then once you open up Serato sample, it'll just be blank and empty. And then you just literally click on the clip that you cropped and drag it into Serato sample, and it puts it in there. Press your Z key 2 times to bring it down to octave C1 to D2. The first button here, A, is the first button of that octave. And so you make sure you just go to the study sample and you press A to make a point, and then come up here. Make sure you turn on mono because you don't want your samples to overlap. If you turn on poly, they'll overlap. You know, you may want that in some applications, but not this time. And then all you need to change is the playback. This button makes it so you have to hold the key, and the longer you hold it, the more it plays back. But as soon as you let go, it stops. This one, as soon as you press it, it just goes. It's like one shot, essentially. So make sure you turn that on, and then you can do this. And so then you can start to chop it. Whenever you press the next key, it'll add another point. You can zoom in with the scroll and move them subtly. And so I just set up all my points there. You can see I've got them in the first 2 rows here. And then I adjusted the pitch up here. The thing I love about Serato sample is the modifications you can do to the sample, right? You can change the pitch really easily. That's pretty common. You can also sync it to your BPM of your DAW. If you trust that Serato samples found the BPM of the sample accurately, it will do a really good job warping it to match the tempo of your project. But otherwise you can turn sync off and change it yourself, which I've done here. And then I've adjusted the pitch by 1. And so then I just came in and actually recorded this pattern here. I use Capture MIDI all the time. I'll show you, I use that for my drums. So this is the pattern I made with the sample, right? Don't know how I'm going to do the drums with that picking up the keyboard, but we'll see. So I had that to start with. The sample was really cool and ambient. I was like, I need to come through with some hard drums to add a bit of roughness to it. So I then tick the red button on the drums track to arm it. I have a bit of a drum rack that I've created, and I put my different samples in. I'll play this for you now. But anyways, yeah, so then I created this pattern here. So then, last pattern I needed to make was a bass line. And so I just brought in this little one shot down here, and then I looped this part. And so I didn't get too complicated with the bass pattern. I basically just put the B's in and found the rhythm that I liked first, and then I just adjusted the pitch in the key of the sample. And so this is what I came up with. And there you go, guys. That's how you use Ableton more like an MPC. Make sure you chop everything. You can do one shots, you can do everything like that. Make sure it's in mono because you don't want it to overlap. The important takeaway is when using the MPC, you often get a bit more of a human feel, and that's something you don't necessarily always receive with Ableton if you use it sort of the normal way that most people use it. When you chop all your samples, you tend to get a more human feel, and you use your ears more than your eyes to determine what sounds good. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next video.